Do we got anybody in chat? Hello, everyone. We got the doctor is in the house once more. How are you
Hey,
doing, Doc?
everybody. I'm doing well, Tio. How are you doing? Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. This is awesome.
I'm doing great. Trying to dodge that corona. Dodging the
Well, good thing
corona.
we can keep busy with some tarot.
There you go. There you go. So, Kiki Squad, hello. How's it going? You're indeed first.
You are
So,
first.
we're doing Psychic Fair secrets. I'll start out, I guess, with my Psychic Fair experience. I've been in 6 different Psychic Fairs. A couple of them closed down. For about 10 years, I've been doing psychic fairs. I've done a
Oh,
couple of
goodness.
expos, and at one time I was in 3 psychic fairs. So 3 weekends a month, I was at the psychic fair all day on Sunday. So
Oh, goodness gracious. That's a lot. I did. For several years I worked, and I still do work psychic fairs, expos, and different sorts of events. From even organizing them myself and how those and working with the organizer and running my own events. So, from big to small events, different kinds of things for charity events and things that were directly for just people's enjoyments that might not have benefited a charity. So. And I've been doing that. I mean, there for a while. I was working probably 1 or 2 a month for a year and a half, so
mhm.
quite a while. And then I kind of slowed my own pace down just because and I've worked ones that were busy, crowded, and I've worked ones where you could have rolled a bowling ball down the aisle. So
Yeah, that's one of the things about the nature of this is you never really know what you're going to get. So,
that's right. That's right.
all right, let me figure out. Oh man, I'm so lost with the windows here. Okay, so technical difficulties, and I'm in IT for 30 years. You think I
that's
can figure this
that's
out?
okay.
How
This
embarrassing!
newfangled technology.
It's this newfangled technology. I don't understand it. All right. Okay. So outline an intro. How to find fairs near you. I already have sort of a page laid out for here. Basically, I just go holistic expo or psychic fair and then my city, and then it just pops up with
Yep.
whatever's around. How do you go about? How did you find yours, Doc?
So part of it is being part of the community. So I mean, you hate to say it, but kind of once you make money, you can make more money. But once you kind of get into a psychic fair, you can get into more psychic fairs. So part of it is getting to know the community and the people, and they're generally going to be the ones who tell you, "Oh, hey, there's a fair over here, or there's this expo." Fortunately for me, well, back where I came from, I was a big part of that community for a long while on the other side, on the fair side, the management side of things. So I knew people and knew of people, and it was easy to make some contacts and get to know people. But sometimes you do really have to pay your dues. Buy a table in an event and just work it. Get to know the owner and get really kind of network through to kind of get to know people. But that is, when I moved from New York State to Florida, I don't know people here in this community, and I did exactly that. I Googled psychic fairs near me, and it turns out near me in Florida means the whole state. So, so
Yeah, there's also you can look up crystal shops or
yep,
any sort of metaphysical
yep. Get in
metaphysical
as a guest reader.
store. Yeah, and just get all these, and like you're talking about, just call them and talk to them, make some friends, and
That's
figure
right.
out what's available in that area.
That's right. That's right.
All right, well, cool. So let's say I got the square thing already. So when you apply to a psychic fair, you usually have an interview with the person that runs it, just to make sure that you're not, some random person off the street kind of thing. Tell
Mhm.
me about how your interview went and what types of things you would think would be expected from that time.
Yeah, so I started on the psychic fair thing as a reader, and you were really kind of not knowing what to expect. And what I found with most organizers is they want you to do a bit of a test read for them,
Hmm.
and usually that's on themselves or somebody that they trust.
Right.
So a colleague or a coworker or a spouse or just a frequent client in their store. So I mean, I don't anymore. I mean, I certainly do a test read, but I won't go work for a shop for free necessarily.
Hmm.
But I'm happy to do a test read, and and that's usually kind of was this accurate? Do I like the style of this guy? How does this work? I have been accepted kind of based on reputation at this point because I've been doing readings online for so long. People
Right, right.
get to know me a bit. So, but yeah, it's usually a test read. And as I run my own fairs, if they're people I don't know, I look for somebody that they do know, somebody that I know. We have a mutual connection, and I can kind of get a read on them. Or I ask them to read for a colleague or a friend. I don't usually let people read me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much. I've noticed the bigger fairs, the bigger money fairs, the high traffic fairs will have a more stringent requirement for you to get in than some of the smaller fairs. Some of the smaller fairs, I'll just say, hey, I got a YouTube, I got 30K subscribers, etc. They go, cool, come on in. We're available. Yeah, we're available in here. And also, if you have other fairs experience, in other words, if you name a couple of other fairs you've been in, that's pretty much instant in as well.
That's right. You can get vouched for by working those fairs, and they're generally fair organizers know each other and attend each other's fairs. So it's a good. Once you're in one, the door that you're through the keyhole generally.
Exactly. So advertising yourself and getting things ready. We have a couple of slides after this to talk about this, but high level overview, how would you recommend somebody new to a fair would go about getting the word out that they're going to be there?
Yeah, well, you and I do this every day, right, Tio? We run a YouTube channel or a Facebook page, and that's how I would advertise myself. I worked a lot of fairs for a long time where people didn't necessarily know who I was. But what I would notice around is, they'll come and talk to me, but I notice around that people who had been well established for several years, had good traffic. And so that's why I set out to do this kind of online stuff. Apart from the fact that I love doing it, it builds me a community and people will now come to see me, which is helpful. But advertising yourself is kind of getting to know the local shops, get some readings done, meet people, put your cards up. If there's a table up front for readers information, make sure you've got some attractive stuff in the front. It really, let your friends know, let your neighbors know if they trust you or you trust them with it. But letting people know, for me, it was a lot of grassroots for a while. It was like, hey, you're my best friend. Come and pay $30. Give me $30.
There you go. And that's all about social proofing as well. Once you're sort of there and people have to wait in line to see you, you do get sort of social proof. It's the same thing to where you hop into somebody's stream and there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of discussion. You're thinking, okay, this is happening. So, and the same thing will happen. Exactly. The same thing will happen at fairs. You come in, you have somebody at the table and they have to wait. And that's normally why you have a piece of paper that's a list basically of people that are in line. And you can sort of buffer that, you cheat a little bit when you get there. I'll put like 4 or 5 names up in the top, but, and then cross them out.
Scarcity.
Yeah. And then just cross them out, to make like, okay, well, I'm free now, but I sure have been busy.
Yeah. Especially with slower fairs, you do need to do that a little bit. It helps when readers, so there's all sorts of reader tricks, right? So it helps when readers are sitting like we're working together. So if we're at a fair together and it's slow, I might read you, you might read me, or at least it might look like that. That helps. It helps pass the time, but it also helps give that sense of social proofing that other people are interested. It also helps to know the organizer, or get to know the organizer. People attend these fairs and they don't know where to go or what to do. They might have a question, they might not, but the organizer or the ticket seller, they're gonna know who's busy and who's not, and they can make recommendations for people. Fairs I run, I don't generally like my ticket people to. If you're gonna recommend readers, recommend it either from Spirit or recommend it like run the list or who's available.
Yeah,
but don't just keep flooding. Don't keep flooding your friends or the people that you know or you like. And I've been in fairs on both sides of that equation, and it's kind of crappy when all the other readers are looking on as the organizers just recommending their friend.
Yeah, and new people that haven't been to a fair before, normally what you'll do is you'll get a piece of paper and it'll have everybody's name and picture on it. I'll just use a tarot card, but you'll get this piece of paper that has everybody's name and picture on it, and it'll say what they do. And well, that's the kitten thing, or the kitten shops tarot. Anyway, but yeah, they'll have a piece of paper, have everybody's name and what they do, and all that. So, and they'll do that handout. And you'll see people that come in and be reading through this documentation to try to figure out, okay, do I want, this person does astrology, this person does tarot, this person does Lenormand. What do I feel, feel like I want to go to? And they'll read that, especially the new people.
That's right, and it helps if you can put in the bio the kinds of questions that you're good at answering. So if you don't do medical guidance, then you might say that. If you're here for you should disclaimer here. But if if you don't do relationship type readings, you might, or that's what you're particularly good at, you might say, common questions for me are, about relationships and work, and that helps narrow down attendees' thoughts about you. They're going to walk around and check you out. Be smiley, be ready. Don't be looking at your phone. They want to know who you are, and they may even talk to you for a while, just to see what you're like.
Yeah, and that's another thing down here at the bottom under preparing. Being the new person, there's sort of a new person excitement about you when you're first there, or when it's your first time there. And a lot of the regulars, because Psychic Fair is all about the regulars, will see the new person and they're thinking, okay, I want to try them out. They look interesting. The table looks interesting. I like them. They're like you said, their smiles are full of smiles and things. And so you get that extra business being the new person, or you get the potential to get some repeat business by sort of, getting some people around you and some people interested because they haven't seen you before. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, being there, I've worked I took a risk, and part of this is just taking risk, right? So I paid a lot of money, worked a big expo that I did not in my town. That helps too. One of the best advice I ever got from a guy named Tim Shaw was work out of town. Because then you're exotic, right? I'm the exotic reader from a different location. So that's part of it. But if you're not a known quantity, sometimes that's and this is a tight run expo, there is some new person excitement. But then I'll do 1-card readings, or just, what my friends Jack and Colleen refer to as greetings, not readings. So I might stand at the edge of my table or my booth and say, hey, you want a 1-card just to see what it's about. And, it's a nice way to just kind of engage them, and if they're interested, they'll come back. So.
Yeah, to do something similar with magic. I have a couple of tricks that are mentalism type, that are interesting, that are not a flaming card or flaming wallet type things, that are that sort of bring people in, and they're like, hey, that's fairly interesting. So but I do that with magic. So there's, like you're saying, there's all sorts of things you can do to sort of, like you're talking about, greet people, get them over, and get them excited about you being there type thing.
That's right.
Okay, well, cool. So the next thing is preparation. Just again, we're going to talk more in depth about this later, but at a high level, what would you recommend? I have a fair coming up, let's say this Sunday, and I want to get prepared. How would you recommend going about that?
Hand sanitizer, tissues. Make sure if you, one is just to kind of make a checklist of the things that you feel like you're going to need to do the job, to do the readings, and what those are needed, but also for yourself and for what you need during the day. Think about it from the mindset of that fair kicks off and you're reading 24 to 30 people in a day. What are you going to need? Water, food, things that you need. But think about your table, what it looks like. What do you need as a reader? What have you seen at other fairs that you might need? I always and still forget tissues, always. But I have even when I have a checklist, I'll check the tissue box and then I'll realize I didn't bring it. I generally keep, I have a to-go kit, I have a fair on the run box, and it has all my stuff in it, and I just go in, but get to know the event, get to know the reader, get to know the location, take a look through the Facebook event and see the types of questions and people that are being asked. It gives you a sense that you're kind of walking in and it's a little bit more communal. Make sure you prepare. Make sure you keep in contact with your fair organizer and be helpful, not naggy, helpful.
Exactly. And a big thing, if you're going to prepare for this, is just to go once before you actually read for it. Just to go once and walk around the room, talk to everybody, say hello, I'm going to be here next week and things like that.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, the Kleenex is like the fair gold. If you have Kleenex, you're the most popular person at the fair because nobody else does.
Nobody else does. And you're right. You are the king or queen of the psychic fair when people are crying at your table. I mean, just
Yeah, because some people do cry. You're right. You have need that Kleenex and somebody just wiping their sleeve. And then,
so speaking of advertisement, not saying make people cry. That's not but if they are crying, it tends to draw people through.
yeah. So I like at Walmart, you can get these food, it's sort of like a little cooler that will be half food and half other things.
Yep.
And so with the other things, I'll put my decks, my cloths, my
Right.
box, all my pretty things in there. And then the other half, I'll have food. And then you can get a little ice block, with those blue ice blocks for a
Yep.
couple of bucks. Put that at the bottom of there, and then put some food that's shareable is what I like to bring, because a lot of people don't bring food and they come to me because they know I'm the guy with the food. So I've grapes and raisins and I have bananas and
Sure.
stuff that I can
treats
share.
are important. Having treats on a table are important. That's all part of it. So food people can share is nice. And I work with my good friend Kayla, and she has some different things in her cooler that sometimes we don't let people know we have, like wine.
There you go. The shots of vodka.
Yeah, and I don't partake as often as I used to, but sometimes sometimes at the end of an event, a nice glass of wine isn't so bad.
There you go. All right. So let's go to the next thing here. So, all right. The types of fairs. So psychic fair is pretty standard, and most of the psychic fairs that I've encountered, I won't say most, a lot of the psychic fairs that I've encountered are at a store or a hotel, to where they'll book one of the conference rooms in the hotel, or they'll just have a store where people are coming in and out anyway, and
That's
they'll
right.
have a dedicated space at the back of those.
Yeah. Yep, and that's very much event venues like a hotel lobby or I do work one in a winery that I'm heading back to this year, but that's sometimes they're outdoor events, and that's a lot of fun, as long as it doesn't rain.
Oh yeah, that's the flea market style, as I
Yeah,
call it.
flea market style.
The
Yeah,
flea market style fair, to where you just have this big outdoor area
that's
and
right.
hope it doesn't rain.
That's right. And I've also worked events in paranormal within the paranormal community where it might be a haunted venue or a haunted location, and you might be in different rooms for that part of the experience too. So that's often interesting because it's an interesting location that draws in people who are interested in that experience, and that sometimes bleeds over into while they're waiting to get a reading or something like that.
Yeah,
Plus,
and
it's cool to get a tour.
the convention, you're talking about the convention. It is
Yep.
expensive to get into that. I think it was
Sometimes.
$150 or something,
Oh
the last one
goodness.
that I went to.
Oh my goodness.
So how much did you pay? And tell me about your convention. Like, what do you get, in your opinion, from paying that extra money and going to the bigger venues?
Well, I'll tell you what I get is I sometimes I get a little bit of grief or consternation because if I'm paying that much, so it's one thing if I'm bringing my own folks in, and I don't mind bringing my folks in, the people who follow me or want to come see me in person, and
Mhm.
all that's really good. But if I'm paying $150, I want to know that there's advertisement being done. I want to know that, and I'm willing to help with it. But I want to know that's if I'm paying a pretty penny to be there, I need to know that that event is well run. I need to know that they have good throughput. I'll probably even call some of the readers and I'll do a bit of a check on to see how do they do normally, typically, what are prices like, am I going to be covering my cost? And so, but if I'm paying $150, the other side of it is I'm also looking, if I'm going to pay that much, I'm also looking to have maybe a little bit of fun. So if they have speakers or things like that, as a vendor, can I get access to that, the
Mhm.
VIP type thing, or a tour, or whatever it might be, and I can network my way through to that. But I want to have a little bit of an experience as well and get to know people and get to know the facility.
Yeah, and some of that is like you're talking about. If it's super busy as well, you burn through business cards, because a lot
Yeah,
of people would just come in. They just
just
want
take business cards.
right. They're just like, okay, I don't really have the money right now, but I'm kind of interested in you, and et cetera. And I've gotten quite a bit of business from those sort of after the fact.
Yeah, 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 I kind of have a love-hate relationship with business cards, mostly because I'm pretty easy to find online, and so I usually recommend people or put a QR scan code and just say, here, scan that, follow me, you'll know what I'm doing. Because business cards A cost money and B are kind of like a consolation prize for not getting a reading. So I'm paying. As much as it's advertising, I have a desk drawer full of business cards I don't flip through. So for me, and I know that this is counter to most culture, I have that love hate relationship with business cards. And the people I work with know that, and the people I work with know that that's ridiculous. And they're like, they're like, does he have business cards? They're like, no, he hates business cards. Just find them online. So I've got them eventually. It took me a couple years, but I got them trained.
Exactly. Yeah, I like to make unique business cards. A vertical business card, bright colors. I put my own art on it, but bright colors, unique. And once you get it, it stands out. I mean, you don't put it in a drawer full of business cards and not see it. So
that's right. That's right. I did stickers once, and I like doing stuff like that. So I'll have stickers that have my name on it, things like that. Things that are a little unusual are okay, but yeah, they got to stand out.
Yeah, some of those are so expensive. You try to be a little too unique and do like refrigerator magnets or something like that. It's just outrageously expensive.
I've seen that too, like whole stacks. Wow, I was like, that good for you.
Yeah, the big flyers, the big like full-length flyers and stuff as well.
Yeah, I've gone down that road too.
So meetup.com is another great place to go in your area and just sort of check out what's new, who's reading, what other psychics are available, what other, psychic events, tarot events are in your area. That's right. And you can really network and get people that can recommend fairs you've never even heard of because they're, they don't advertise much.
That's right.
Yeah. So
I agree.
It's interesting. The good thing about the fairs that are slow, they don't charge a lot of money for you to be there. So.
Yeah. Well, that's true too, right? That's often the truth.
Okay, well, cool. So before the fair, prepping before the fair. So the first thing you and I are going to recommend is this, our good friend and everyday acquaintance, Square Up.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
.com. Do you have your reader handy? I was actually trying to dig up mine.
You know what? Hang on. I actually do. Hang on. Let me grab it.
Okay.
I don't know which pocket it's in, but interestingly enough, there it is. I found it. Interesting enough, I keep it with me even my regular day because we might here. I have my PayPal as well, so that's my little Square reader. Although I gotta tell you, I have a brand new phone, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna have to go to Bluetooth with this brand new phone. It doesn't have a jack.
Oh yeah.
Oh no! So I'm ill prepared for my next fair, but I will be prepared by the end of the day. So there's a Square reader for most phones that have a headphone jack. That's it, right there.
Yep. Luckily they're cheap.
Yeah, luckily they're pretty inexpensive, and I keep one with me, actually, not for psychic fairs, but because my friends owe me money. We're not going to wait on that.
Yeah, there you go. So those things are amazing because so a startling number of people just don't have cash on them, or let's say you charge $30 and all they have is $20, and people are just more inclined to reach for the credit card and just do it that way. I found that they'll do a credit card even if you have a website to where they can go and donate like we do.
Yep, that's right. That's also an option, right?
Right. But it's interesting when you give them the website, they'll fumble around with it and they'll end up just taking out the credit card. People just find that. Yeah.
Right. That's right.
People just find that easy. So
absolutely it is.
So tell me, one of the things you said in the email was about pricing. Tell me your strategies on pricing.
Yeah. So strategies on pricing are kind of some are based on a couple of different practices. One is that I always ask the fair organizer, is there a set price for readings, or is there a common price for readings? So in my opinion, a good fair sets. If they don't set the price, they tell the readers every reading is going to have the same price structure. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is now we're all competing on an individual level. And I've worked with people who are really well regarded and hate that experience because they want to charge double or triple what new readers are charging. And I guess that's fine. but new readers don't know what to do. And so I asked the fair organizer, and if they say, well, you guys kind of set your own price, you do what you want to do, and that's fine too. But the first thing I do when I get there is I walk, or even before, I reach out to the other readers and say, what are we looking at charging for a 15-minute reading or a 30-minute reading?
Hmm.
And I kind of and then we just kind of communicate behind the scenes. Or if I show up to a reading fair not having done that, I probably have about 4 or 5 different signs in my box, everything from $20 to $40 in $5 increments. And that's, I try to, in any fairs that I've run, I've set the pricing and let the readers know beforehand, this is the price. And if you don't want to work the event, that's totally cool. But I don't want you to have to worry about it because it's stressful. TATO, how much do you charge? What do you,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
good? And it does vary on locale and fair type. Fairs where I was in Western New York State. I mean, you could get away with, people were charging $35 or $40 for a 15-minute reading. Whereas, if I go down the road into Cleveland, that's not going to hold. It's like $25 tops.
Right. It depends on your location and the fair organizer and that's one of the important things about networking with the other
Yep.
people there as well. The fair organizer is extremely helpful. The people that are there are extremely helpful because our community is very, very nice. I mean, we're very
Absolutely.
genuine with each other and very nice. So you can sort of go up to the other people and say, hey, I'm new. What do you charge? What would you recommend a new person charge? And they're very helpful in those regards.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So when you go to pricing as well, if you're going to be a little bit lower, do you recommend somebody get a little more money later once they get some more experience under the belt from being in the fair?
I don't actually. I think everybody should be. I mean, if you're a new reader, there's a million ways. If there's a million ways for you to get practice
Hmm.
without having to pay the price at a fair for that. And I want everybody to be at the same level. And I prefer that even if you're brand new to the event, or even if you're brand new to fairs in general, I want you to be on a level playing field with everybody else. I think that gives you the most equity in the situation. And then if the readers as a fair organizer, if the readers came to me and said this is too high or too low, we can. It's a community. Let's discuss. Let's figure it
Hmm.
out. But the other part of setting your pricing is knowing how you're paying for your table, and if the event takes a cut, or those are some of the other things you got to think about. If the fair is taking a $5 cut and you're charging $20, that's $15, not 20. Do you move up to 25? That's the networking. You got to the community decides
Right. And like you're talking about, different fairs will charge you a different
different
sort
ways.
of way of charging you. Like you're talking about, some will charge you a table fee to where you'll pay for a full table, a half table, or what have you. Some will charge you, like you're saying, they'll take a percentage of every reading. So,
Yeah, and I mean, and pay attention to that. This is like part of the economics of the business. I mean, like for a lot of new readers, they don't know, and I made this mistake too as a new reader. Like I walked in, I was like, "Oh, and it's easy for me. You're going to charge $35, and you're going to give me 30, and you're going to take 5. That's great." Well, I did 20 readings at that event. That was $100 table.
oh, wow.
Or if well, we take 10. Well, that's a $200 table. Now it's a $200 table. You better be making bank that day.
Yeah.
And so you got to, some for fair organizers, they listen, they're there to make money too and cover their costs and maybe reinvest into the next fair. Like a lot of the fair runners that I work with do. Just pay attention to the cost structure. If it's cheaper for you to buy a $30 table or a $60 table, which is sometimes what I prefer, and then I just set my price in the fair itself.
Yeah, and the people that run the fair do have a lot of costs in addition to
Yeah,
the venue. They need to
yeah.
advertise, they need to get the word out.
You better hope they need to advertise.
Yeah, I've been at a couple of fairs. They didn't advertise at all. I went to
Yeah, they're
one
just
fair who just spent way too much money on everything, and they just went under pretty quick. So
yeah, that's unfortunate.
yeah, it all depends on who's doing it and what kind of business sense that person has.
Yeah, business
So,
sense.
like you're talking about signage, now this is really critical because
Yeah,
a lot of people, if you're new to this area, if you've never done a fair before, you're thinking, I'm going to make one sign and that's going to be my sign. But like you're talking about, some
Yeah.
days you're going to have maybe a different price, or some days you're going to be doing different
Right.
techniques. And so signage, getting a full page color sign, and it's critical that the sign be browsable. As in other words, you don't want somebody guessing at something or having to ask you a question. The sign should say who you are, what you do, and how much it
How
is.
much? Yep. And it doesn't, and it shouldn't be complicated. Don't, if you do 20 things, pick your most popular thing
Right, right.
and put it on the sign, because you're going to get questions anyway.
Yeah.
So, work out the exceptions in the conversation. But yeah, Dr. Mystical tarot readings, $20.
Yep. And a font that they can read from across the room. So
Big, bold, colorful is helpful. And I
yeah.
do also find on my signs that if I put that I accept squares, accept credit cards, that avoids a lot of questions, because they're looking just like I always do. I look for that. I look for that logo at the bottom of a sign or something like that.
Exactly. You make an excellent point, because I've read beside other people, and you'll have people just roam the room until they find somebody they can do a credit card.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't want them to, part of hotels and things like that have a ATM machine, but that's like a $3 or $4 fee. I mean, that's bananas.
Oh yeah, half those machines look like they were made back in the 1980s. So
Right? And who puts their, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't even like using my credit card at the gas station anymore.
yeah, with the skimmers and all that.
Right, right. I'm shaking the things. But yeah, so that's part of it. The other side of signage is, do you want a big, I should have grabbed my vertical out of my closet, but I have a vertical banner that I can set up, and it like sits behind my table. It's actually just like and I used to have a full-fledged like 6 or 7 footer, but that takes extra space. Yep, something. But right now I just have kind of a 3 foot sign. I scroll it up. It sits behind my shoulder. It tells people who I am, and it gives the social. It's got my picture on it, and it's got the social media stuff, and so they can go find me.
Yeah,
That's
I
part of
like
the
that.
signage too. Just so if they're looking across the room, you want them to be able to say, "Oh, that's Tarot Oracle. I need to go over there and talk to him."
Yeah, and some of these people like Chiro Marchetti will sell, his own type of banner, but you can get a banner made at most of the online shops, Zing Print, and
Yeah,
um,
and
all the usual places to go. Yeah.
there's usually coupons. So watch don't go in without a coupon. Go in and search for coupons, and you can get. I mean, I think I picked up my new sign here for maybe 25 or $30. That's not too bad.
Yep. Okay. Well, so let's talk about the first stage that somebody's going to go through as they sort of come in and try to find a reader or try to get into the venue. They're going to meet the greeters, or the people at the tables. They're going to take their money. There's usually some sort of an entrance fee,
Yeah.
and like you're talking about, most times you can get a coupon for the entrance fee. I don't think I've ever seen a psychic fair that doesn't have some type of coupon to get
Oh,
in.
I have. I mean, that's the other side of the pricing equation too. Is like if a family of four comes to a holistic event or a psychic fair, and it's a $5 interest fee, that family's already out $20.
Hmm.
And if you're charging 40 for a 15-minute reading, that one person, now that family's $100 day is now at 60, and they still got to buy lunch. And so, yeah, but sometimes there's coupons. Like if you buy a reading, I have worked one event where it's $5 to get in, but if you get a reading from one of the vendors, they'll give you a coupon, and you can bring it back to us on your way out, and you'll get your $5 back.
Exactly. So Mystic Cats has an interesting thing about psychic fairs being far away. Do you want to skip forward a bit and talk about
Yeah.
some of the online psychic fairs?
Yeah, let's do that. I got to get that going on. And it's all these events closing up. There's an opportunity to have some fun with some different kinds of conventions. So, online. So, first of all, right, Tarot Oracle and I both run an online psychic fair he runs one every day. so, so that's one way to get your psychic fair fix in, is to find streamers on YouTube and get to know them and support the work that they do. Online psychic fairs, I think we're going to start to see some of the interesting stuff come out because of this.
Oh,
But I've seen
absolutely.
the collabs and the trade-offs. I might stream for an hour and then trade off to somebody else for an hour. I've seen that sort of thing work. And but I think that, yeah, I mean, getting to know the social media tools, run your own psychic fair for you.
Yep. And I've seen online psychic fairs. They weren't done like that I would do them, but I'm an IT guy. I have this envision. I
A
have
little
this
bit of an
vision.
expertise, right?
I have this vision of this ultimate psychic fair to where you're going to have, 10 to 15, 20 people available to read at any given time. And you
That's
click on their image, or they're going to be live. So
Yeah.
they're going to be there with their picture.
Right.
And you click on them, their live feed. You're going to go there, and then you're going to pay to get a reading. And if you're in a queue, that's fine. But then their window would zoom to full screen, and then you'd be on there with a button to go back to the lobby and things like that.
Yeah, almost like working on like in a WebEx conference where you're going to have breakout rooms, or a Zoom conference if Zoom does breakout rooms, something similar to that sort of deal. Yeah. And I've seen them do too, where they basically have all the live, they put up a website basically, and they have all the live streams embedded. So you can kind of pop down and join in on the stream, and then go back. But I think I think this is an area that will have some interest for the next couple of months.
Absolutely. I think you and I should get together,
Yeah.
make this psychic fair that I'm dreaming about, because
There you go. I'm down for that.
and you could peek into other people's readings as well. They'd be anonymous, obviously, but now I can see, okay, I can see Dr. Mystical is going to be using the Thoth. I can see that he has these type of claws. I can see his personality. I can see how he reads.
Right.
I'm like, ooh, I like him. Let me get on his list and be in the virtual psychic fair. And then you could do that once a week, once a month, what have you. And then whoever is interested in joining the fair can join the fair.
Absolutely. I think, for people who live in remote areas, so not only are you looking at $100 family budget day, you're also looking at a 2-hour drive, so it's a day. It's a day for a family.
Yeah. And that's some of the good things about the psychic fairs is they have more than one thing. So let's skip from table setup to, we already did the layout. Let's see, what am I doing?
We've covered all of these things so well already. The best laid plans. This is like the theme of my week. I have plans, and my plans explode.
There you go. So the layout. So we talked about the greeters. These are people that are going to take your money. They're going to have the signage. And an important thing here is most of the time a greeter will have a couple of tables where you can put your business card.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like a little reader's table where you can put a flyer or business cards, or I've seen really cool stuff done. Like, they attach their business card like a wedding gift or whatever, so it's attached to some candy.
Oh, I've never seen that. That's a good idea.
Not usually Jordan almonds, but thank goodness for that. But they put like taped a little Hershey's Kiss on it, or peppermint or something like that.
Yep.
Which is also something you should put in your box, by the way, is some scope or Listerine or toothpaste or a peppermint.
Oh, now especially, yeah. Okay, so I usually do the little mints, the little mints that come in a little container that you can get at the store, and you just pop one of those in your mouth or whatever. Yeah. So let's talk about vendors. In addition to the readers, we're going to have a section with vendors, so people selling jewelry, their custom scents, or doTERRA.
All of the custom scents. All of them.
Oh yeah, they'll have
all of the sage, all of the incense, all of it. Yes.
My favorite by far are the massage.
Yes.
The chair massage, and my absolute favorite is the people that make the bean bags that have the lavender in them that you can and they'll fill it with beans or whatnot, so you can warm those in the microwave and put it on your shoulder.
That's right. Yeah. Good stuff. I love the artwork. The people are doing woodwork and different sorts of things like that. I've seen, it's really great if the local psychic shops or witchy shops can come in and have just a general setup. If I see an aura photographer around, I try to be as close to them as I can get, because they generally are pretty popular. And
oh, the aura photographer. Someone tried to sell me their aura photography kit.
Yeah.
The guy was like really old. He was like, look, I'm retiring. He goes, if you're interested in this, but it was like $10K. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it is crazy expensive. Like, you wonder why they charge so much, and then you go and look it up, and you're like, this is a $20,000 investment. This would have to be my full-time job.
Yeah, that's insane. I'm not sure what the technology behind that is, but you think today they could find something that would be a little bit cheaper.
Like a cell phone or something. I don't know.
Cell phone or photography. There you go. There's the next idea we have. Yeah,
The next app we're building is
yeah.
that.
iPhone or photography. Just take
Right.
your picture. You're standing in line at Kroger, just waiting for to get some bottled water or toilet paper. You just yeah.
Hey, give me $20. I'll tell you what your aura said. Give me that toilet paper. I'll tell you what your aura said.
the, the dynamic tray. There you go.
That's right.
Okay, so what else have you seen? It's like
I've speakers are a lot of fun, and the really good professional events that I work will have speakers come up. That's also a good way to get to know the if you have a presence, or if you are online, or you can do a thing. The organizers generally don't accept people sight unseen to do a speech or do a workshop or a session. But those sorts of things also draw people in, and it gives people something to do for a little while. So I run like my Tarot Tuesday show. I run that in an event, like everybody can come, like almost like Tarot Gallery.
Mhm.
And so I've seen that. I've seen great talks about haunted locations, or Bigfoot, or UFOs, or I like to work some of the really weirdo events, things that aren't just straight psychic fairs, because it brings in a whole different genre of people, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, and I've seen music as well. There's a lady that
Music,
played the
yep.
harp.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen a harp. That's wild.
It was really big. I was
Yeah,
like,
no
wow,
drums.
it's
I haven't
huge.
seen drums, but guitars.
Mhm.
I'm a little. I did work an event where they had like a full-fledged band, and that was a little much. That was a little bit too loud. But
Yeah, so I've seen music, like you're talking about speakers,
yep,
and we've also had lessons where
yeah.
at one fair they had a section laid out that they sort of cordoned off with some drapes,
Hmm.
and they would have lessons. So they would have a lesson at 1 o'clock. They would have how to read Lenormand or whatever, and then
That's right.
at
Yeah,
2 o'clock it
yeah.
would be how to read auras or
That's right.
etc.
Yeah, and I've seen rituals like meditation rituals, or drum circles, or geez, I mean, there was like an opening one on one day that was like, and I forget what this was in Western New York, and they did kind of almost like an opening kind of blessing of the day, and they brought
Hmm.
they had somebody who led it from their kind of spiritual belief. And that was interesting, because it kind of kicked the event off, both for the readers as well as and then they did a couple of different ritual type stuff during the day for people. So that's always interesting, and it gives people exposure to some different aspects of this metaphysical community we're in.
Yep. So let's talk about table setup. So you have a table, and it could be a half table that you're sharing with somebody if you wanted to do the cheaper way, or it could be a
That's
whole
right. Or you
table.
bring in your own.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You may have to bring in your own if it's going to be at an outdoor flea market type event as well.
That's right.
So here is my table setup. As you can see, I have it laid out here. So
It looks just like your table setup.
it looks like just my live stream.
That's great.
So I usually have cloths. Obviously, we have a Chiro Marchetti. This is, type thing. But normally it's going to be a tablecloth, because what they normally give you is just this plain white or black or brown tablecloth. And it's
That's right.
usually stained, you know.
Right. Has a smelly skirt around the table. Yeah, it's great.
That's right. It has puke from the previous. No, I'm kidding.
I don't
But
know. There was a wedding in the last one, before the wedding. Next morning, things stunk of stale beer.
oh wow.
So yeah.
So I usually have a cloth, and a good sized cloth is recommended because some of the
Hmm.
tables are big when you get some of these venues. I'll have a tarot bag where I have my stuff in it, and then I have obviously the sign, and then I'll have my business cards over here, and
Right.
then I have a box. This is a Chiro Marchetti box that I put my tarot into,
Oh, that's
and
fun.
and then obviously you'll have a couple of decks that you're going to bring as well. So
That's right. Yeah, you don't. If you're a tarot reader, you're not going to bring all of your decks with you, because unless you only have three, in which case you will bring all of them. But I'm sure for Tarot Oracle, he's not bringing all of his decks. But yeah, a few decks. I have it looks like I picked it up at Michael's or Joann's or one of these places, and it looks like a barrel, and that's where I put my tarot decks and different kinds of things. And I have a bit of a steampunk motif, or did at any rate. I don't know if that might be evolving, but so I have gears and stuff that I sprinkle on my table, and crystals and
mhm.
stuff that's interesting. I have a singing bowl. I have a crystal ball that I bought from Amazon for $17, and those things are all good because for a lot of times, the bowl, the Tibetan singing bowl, and the crystal ball will draw people in because they'll want to know. They'll want to know what's inside the crystal ball, which, as it turns out, is just the bottom. But my daughter, so my oldest little mystical, works these events with me, and she had a great idea. And so she actually put up a free reading. So it says free reading if your name is in the crystal ball. And so she wrote a name on any name. It wasn't like Sarah. It was a little bit more obscure. If that's your name, and she puts it underneath the crystal ball, and then if you look in the crystal ball and that's your name, she committed me to giving a free reading. And I've only given away one free reading, but I've had lots of people take a look.
Oh, that's awesome. I never even
Yeah,
thought about that.
she's like a little salesperson. She's great.
There you go. So what decks do you bring? Like if you had to go, or if you're going tomorrow or what have you to a fair, what would you pack as far as tarot is concerned?
I always bring the Rider Waite, right? It's always I always bring my Radiant Rider Waite. That's the one people are most familiar with. I may pick based on if it's an event that I've been to before. So, for example, and I don't know if it's still going on, but here in Southwest Florida, well, I'm not in Southwest Florida, but this event is in Southwest Florida, and it's a UFO and paranormal convention. So I might bring my zombie tarot, I might bring my Oracle of Nightmares, things that are a little bit kind of genre specific. And then I work another event in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is also not where I live. But in that event is a lot more kind of love and light, and so I might bring my fairy tarot with that. And usually, depending on where we are in the year, a lot of people request me to bring my Manara tarot, and then I have to have like an 18 plus disclosure on my table. But for the most part, I try to bring decks that echo the Rider Waite. Whenever possible, because that's what people are most familiar with, and then maybe kind of wacky deck that's a little bit out of the norm. And I try to design readings around certain decks. So Halloween is obviously going to be the Halloween Oracle, and Zombie Tarot, and Oracle of Nightmares, and but my go-to deck is always Radiant Rider Waite. Santa Muerte Tarot is one that I bring because I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. But probably at the next one, I'm going to bring in Light Seekers, and I'm going to bring in This Might Hurt Tarot, just because I think that they represent a lot of where I want to see tarot going.
Absolutely. I'm probably off the curve here, but I do the Thoth. And
Okay.
90% of it. So I'll spread the Thoth out like this on my table, and because I trimmed it, because it's so vibrant, I found a lot of times I'll end up with the same deck as somebody beside me, and then I'm
Yep.
like,
Yeah, and you're like,
I want to
Rider
change
Waite.
decks. So, but nobody comes in with this. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
you've never seen a reader come in with this at a fair. So I think it's unique. It's bright, and it draws people in. And my sign and everything else sort of has that theme to it. And it's just an interesting. I think it's just different enough that people go, okay, ooh, what is that kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think having some decks that are a little bit interesting and putting them out for people so they can look at them. They're always a little afraid to touch the decks, but I'm totally fine with that. Like shuffle them, take a look at them. I'll talk to you about it, the art. I try to know my decks really well, and I get to know my creators really well, so I can talk about the deck fairly intelligently. And that's always interesting for people. But I agree. I always have Rider Waite because it's Rider Waite, and if all else, especially if I'm if I'm flying in a plane, I'm limiting what I bring.
Oh, exactly.
But it's rare, and I'm not saying people invite me and I fly out to every fair in the world. There's a few events that I work that quite frankly are a little worth going to, and I have a long relationship with.
So what do you think about out of print or expensive decks taken to a fair? And again, you're talking about people touch them, people.
No, we can put those in glass, right? It's like a haunted object, right? I think it's interesting to have a rare deck or something like that. But if it's something that's particularly valuable, I probably would put it in a nice little glass box, right? And say, this is that deck.
Yeah, there you go. So that
might draw people in too. They want to know what that deck's all about.
That's true. I mean, you can have some things on your table that do draw things in. I've found that one thing I that I just made the mistake of doing is if you look like that you're trying to sell something at your
They'll
table.
ask you how much. Yes. I could have sold my tarot decks a lot. A lot.
There you go. No, but if you have something that, at least in my experience, if I have something that looks like it's for sale, in other words, one of my paintings or something that was a tarot deck,
Okay.
people just avoided my table. They
Oh.
thought, and then I got in trouble with the organizer because they're like, I think
not a
that you're
vendor.
selling things and that's an extra fee,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, that's something you need to ask too. If you're multifaceted, if you're both a medium or tarot card reader, and you have trinkets, and I used to sell finger labyrinths or like walking labyrinths, but they were made out of corian,
mhm.
and also my steampunk divination dice. I used to make them, and I always had them with me. But I'm also really conscious to ask the fair reader or fair organizer, like, so look, I have some things that I also sell. Is it okay if I bring them and sell them at my table? And also giving them the total freedom to say, please tell me no. It's totally okay if you do. I'm asking because if you don't have a policy, I'd like to just have a couple around.
Yeah.
But you don't want to look like a vendor because people are scanning vendors from a distance. They're not scanning
Mhm.
readers from a distance.
Yeah. The problem, if you look like a vendor, people think that they're going to get hard sold if they get near you. So,
That's right. Yeah, and usually I have like because I'll go to an event and I'll bring my dice with me and I'll read with my dice. And if they're like, "Oh, these are really interesting," I'll offer them up and say, "Hey, you can buy them from me if you'd want." Or now I just sell them online so they can just buy them online if they want. So
yeah, that brings up an interesting point. What do you think about just tarot stuff that's, well, we'll move into another subject. Things that aren't tarot. So you'll have tea leaf readers, you'll have people
I love
doing
it.
astrology readings and things like that. And that's another tip. By the way, if you need a power outlet, get there very early so that you can get a table with a power outlet and
That's
bring an
right.
extension cord because
That's
there's
right.
never a power outlet within 6 feet. It's always 12 feet away.
That's right. And if you pay for power, absolutely make sure you get it.
Mhm.
Like, so I've worked events where I've paid for power and they've said, oh, yeah, sorry about that. No, no, no. Either give me the power or give me the money back. But most of the time, if I need power, if I've purchased power, it's because I need it. It's not just because I want to surf the internet and play video games. So that's part of the relationship with the organizer too, is that, I paid $25 to have power at my table, and I don't have power. Either move me or get power here. And I carry a 50-foot extension cord in my car anyway. So I make sure, yeah, that's helpful. And a little power strip is handy too, because share the love. The reader next to you might want to plug their phone in.
Absolutely. That's a big thing too, because your phone just runs out of battery. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, especially, yeah, if you pay for power, especially at some of these flea market events where it's outside, because they're going to have to run a big cable and
that's
they're going
right.
to have to get it to you. And it's a
That's
pain
right.
in the butt. And that's why a lot of times you have to pay for power at some of these
That's right.
events.
That's right.
Okay, well, cool. So talk about the let's see, business cards, crystals. Okay, candles. Candles is a big iffy thing that you need to check because some venues do not allow fire of any type inside.
That's right. That's right. Yep, that's exactly right. So if you want candles, and everybody does, right?
Mhm.
So you can go to Amazon and you can buy a flickering pillar candle. You can even get it in wax if that's what you want to do. But be mindful, like if it's hot in there, your wax is going to get ooey gooey. But I don't do. I used to bring candles. I have a like a old like a candle. I don't. It's not a candelabra, but it's like a candle thing that you'd walk through if you didn't have power. And so I used to have one of those on my table. Interestingly enough, somebody actually said it was theirs and then asked me if there was like a sigil or a symbol on the bottom of it. And I was like, I
Really?
don't know. And they turned it over, and there it was. They described it and they turned it over, and there it was. They had given it away to the local like Salvation Army store, and that's where I picked it up for like 50 cents. And it
Oh
turns
wow.
out it was their. It turns out it was like their family's candle thingy mabobber.
Did he
And it
buy it back
was
from you?
no, no. He's like, I think it's just, I just had to come over and look because I remember it as a kid, and it was really weird. It was like a totally weird experience. What a synchronicity. But
No doubt. Okay, so let's talk about customer base. What do you think about regulars versus newcomers versus shoppers?
Well, I'll tell you that I've been in the newcomers business for a long time, and I'm happy with newcomers. But part of the reason I started to do the work that I do on YouTube and Facebook was so that I could comfortably work any event that I wanted to, if that's a place where my regulars were. So I watched a lot of events, worked a lot of events as a new person, and I found that people were coming back to the people they know, right? The Tarot Oracle people go to Tarot Oracle, and they may and they should pick up readings from other people. This is part of the pricing schema, but so that's part of it. I do find that people tend, if they have a good experience in a fair, they're going to come back. That's going to be the most of the people that you will see is people who've been to that event before.
Hmm.
And newcomers are part of it. They're going to bring their friends, and I've met a lot of people that way. And then people who just are looking for I'd say your breakdown's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of times we'll go in and sometimes you just don't see hardly any new people at all. It's the same people you saw last week
Yeah.
or the week before. And there's a lot of commonality between fairs too, because when I was doing 3 fairs a week, 3 fairs a month, so one fair would have the same person, and then that same person would come to the next one, and then the same person would come to the next one. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's that too. I mean, there's certainly that. I generally try to. I mean, I'm good with my people. If you're getting a reading from me, full fledged reading. If they're getting a one card reading from me every week, that's totally fine. But if you're getting and this is good advice for anybody who sees a medium
mhm.
or a tarot person. If you're getting a reading, a full fledged, full on reading every week from this person, and it's saying the same thing. You're not getting any value out of that anymore. You need to, and I'm good about telling my clients that. Like maybe you need, and I've done that in fairs too. When I read you last time, and I can tell you as a medium, I'm going to give you the same advice. So, you know what you should do? Go over here and talk to Jack, or go over here and talk to Kayla, and see if you get a different answer. And if you do, then that's the reading for you. And if you don't, then just for crying out loud, will you do it? Will you do the thing that you're told to do by spirit? Come on.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, and a lot of people too, when they come, and they're regulars because they just really, really love or are in tune with a particular reader.
Yeah,
And you'll see these people; they'll be hugging the reader.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
they'll be behind the table there, just giving them hugs and
Yeah,
crying. And I mean, they're really, really attached to
yeah,
this particular person. So
yeah.
a lot of passion
That's right.
with people that
And
go.
that's why I have a community. That's why I try to build a community is so that we could have those moments and we could have successful events together and come together as a group and I think all that's really great. And the interesting thing is that even if they buy a reading and then I don't put pressure on people to buy a reading at a fair from me. I mean, it's great if they do, but if I've known them in the show for a while and they get a reading from me, that's great. What great support of the community. We may expand upon that a little bit, but yeah, I like to see the community, and ultimately, I found that to be the repeat people, part of the community that come to see you, are what a lot of fairs count on, actually.
Hmm. Yeah, Mystic has a good idea here. It says I always put a limit. I do an intake questionnaire to find out how many readings they've had. Some are, yeah, I agree. Some are
Yeah,
people that
yeah.
they'll walk the room and ask everybody the exact same question. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of getting to. What Mystic Bella had to say was that some people are chronic seekers, and I try to, I'll sit them down. But if I get a sense that if I've watched them, like the other thing about being in a community of readers is that you speak and you know who's bounced from table to table. I'm always interested to people who get multiple readings to hear after the event how my reading resonated with their readings, how it
Mhm.
might have been different or expanded. But if they're chronic seekers, you as a reader, I think you build trust with both the organizer and the client themselves to say, I really think you should take some time to think about and meditate on what you've been told already. I might just sit and do a counseling session. What have you been told? What does that mean to you?
Mhm.
What do you think? What do you think you might get from sitting with me today? And I've had people sit across from me and get a reading, and I've passed their money back to them. It wasn't jiving or wasn't resonating. They were either working the system where they get a question and then say that didn't resonate and make us think about it, which also happens unfortunately. Fortunately, it's rare. But if you don't feel like you should give people readings, if you don't feel like that person, you should absolutely push it back and, give them kindness, some advice, say, hey, maybe meditate about that for a little bit. Think about what that means and what you might do. What more do you need? And then try to, if in an hour you're like, you still need more information, come on back.
Yep, that's interesting that you bring up refunds. I've given a couple myself, and some people, I've learned that some people, when you read for them, if they're really just wary, if they're really super sketchy, if they're really sort of, the people that don't pull the chair up all the way, they sort of have the chair like they're about ready to leave, or it's this weird vibe about them.
Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes I'll say, let me do the reading, and then you pay me afterwards, basically.
Yep.
You just give
Yeah.
them the opportunity so they're a little more comfortable when they come in.
That's right. I mean and yeah, absolutely. If they're sketchy, and I've had people sit down with me and get a reading and then change gears, like in the middle of a tarot reading. They ask a question, they totally change gears. Oh, well, I didn't want a tarot reading for myself. I want it for my daughter.
Hmm.
Oh my God! Like holy crow! That's a separate reading, and it's fine. But it has happened to me rarely. But I have had people like they get super fussy, and that's totally fine. I'm not going to make a big deal of it. It's not a good idea to have an altercation or a conflict with a client in an event. Hey, here's your ticket back. Go get another reading. If like go get the message you need. God love you. Like that's great. Do that. Go bother someone that you think will be able to give you the answer that you need. And I don't want to be in the way of that. And I've often communicated that if that happens, I make certain the organizer knows it happened. I make certain that they know who it happened with, because they may be doing that. And unfortunately, this is a reality in fairs. They may be doing that to multiple readers just to get paid for one reading and get like 7 or 8 readings out of the day.
Yeah, and you have some people that are just confrontational by nature, because
Yep.
we have 1 or 2 guys that I've met. I've been doing it a long time, but we have 1 or 2 guys that I've met that have come in and just said, they'll just slap the money on the table. There's no connection. They don't really.
Right.
They'll look at you in the eye and they'll go, "Give me a reading." Exactly. They'll
No.
closed body
Nope.
language.
Doesn't make sense. Nope.
Yeah, they'll
And
just
then at the end, they're like, "That was great." This is my favorite experience.
You have one guy. He's like you're talking about the chronic readers, or the people that are always there, repeat customer. He's every fair. It doesn't matter where the fair is. He's there. And if you're new, he's gonna just slam the money on the table. He's gonna get there. He's just gonna go like that. He's gonna go, read me,
Right. I've had that.
like you're talking about, just immediately with a closed body
Yep.
language.
Especially if you're the new reader.
Oh, if
So
you're
if you're going into a closed event, and like a close event or a closed event that has had an audience for a long time, and you've somehow been welcomed into the guild,
Mhm.
ooh, look out! You there. Hopefully, the organizer shows a small mercy and helps you. And I've had that, like, hey, they come. I've had an event that I worked at, and they have a very close knit community, and I worked it, and I got tested, and the organizer's like, just leave him be. Like stop being all like that. You got to stop being like that. But you just take it. It's part of the fun. It's part of the experience. But what you do learn is you learn how to read through blocks real quick.
Mhm. So have you ever successfully recruited the shoppers? Basically, these are people that are going to come. They want the chair massage and they want to get their doTERRA or whatever they're going to get. And they're, the thing that I love the best, the bean bag that goes on the back of your shoulders and things like
Yeah, yeah.
that.
I gotta tell you, I don't know that I have necessarily recruited the shoppers a lot. Probably once or twice. I do. I have a wonderful community member as part of my channel. She's not, no one would ever know that she's there, but she is so behind the scenes supporting the work that I do and getting readings with me. And she's wonderful. And I met her in an event and she was there with her partner. She had zero interest in this stuff, but I looked fun to talk to. And so sat down and chatted with me for a bit, got a reading, and now is pretty loyal. But that's probably one. I don't know that I've recruited a lot of shoppers. Most of the shoppers are friends of the person that wants to be there.
Mhm.
And they're skeptical, and they may hang out and they may get a reading, but it's pretty rare, and I don't really push them too hard. I might give them like a one card greeting, like
Yeah, and that's where I
pass the
use
time.
magic. I think that's one of the things what I use that's helpful to know magic is because I can pull out a quick magic trick, something that's interesting. So the kids are just sitting there, the people are shopping. I can show the kids a couple of magic tricks, and they'll say, "Mom, he showed me magic," and now Mom's interested. Like, who is this? So they come over.
That's right. Who is this weird dude
This
entertaining
weird
my
dude.
my
Let me
family?
Google TarotOracle. Oh, it's
Yeah.
got a YouTube. Oh, okay. Or what?
Yeah,
No.
but and those things, I think, To, I think that there's an importance to that, doing that work and being friendly. Like, the kids they want to hit the singing bowl or look in the crystal ball or play with the trinkets I have in my, and parents are always like, no, don't touch it. I'm like, it's fine, touch it. Like, it keeps the kids busy and happy, but with the organizer, it helps them to build a good event and keep that event going well, and you become part of that community. And even if they don't buy a reading, you are helping the event, and you might be helping another reader or another vendor. You're keeping the kids from getting fussy, because it turns out psychic fairs aren't really super kid friendly.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about factors affecting the attendance. So let's get the obvious thing of the coronavirus out of the way. But
So coronavirus is a thing. So
so yeah, if you have big rolls of toilet paper for sale at your table, you can also get.
right.
No, I'm
Put
kidding.
your business card on the top of it.
Have custom printed toilet paper. That could be the new thing. Yeah.
Put a coupon on the roll if you can.
The roll. So weather is a
Yep.
huge thing. If it's snowing, if it's raining, have you ever had an event just completely canceled because of weather?
I have not had an event canceled because of weather, but I have had an event that should have canceled because of weather. So, and because I read in New York State for a long time, right? Snow is the reason. If they're calling for a travel advisory, you're better off letting the organizer know you're not going to be there. If they say it's still a go, you just tell them you think that's unwise and you move on. But weather is a big factor. If it's and we like to say, oh, it's a sunny day, so they should be here. Or it's a rainy day, they'll have nowhere else to go. But there's a million rationalizations, but ultimately people will come unless, the creek's rising and the forest is on fire.
Oh yeah, I've had some of the regulars. It doesn't matter what the weather. It could be a tornado. Literally, we had like a tornado warning, and they showing up. Some of the regulars are still showing up.
That's good for you. That's great. I mean, but working up in the Northeast for as long as I have, it's less of an issue here in Florida where I live now, but up in the Northeast where I was, mostly winter events. I mean, if it's a little bit of snow on the ground, people aren't going to worry about it. But if there's a travel advisory, I mean, I worked an event, there was a travel advisory. Unless I have a great deal of confidence in that organizer or have maybe past experiences with that, I'm really good to let the organizer know I might not attend, or when I get there, let them know I may be leaving early.
That's true.
Which I don't like to do. I don't like to do that. I'm not the reader that leaves early. Organizers hate that. But if the weather is bad, I want them to let them know. Ask them if it's okay. I always frame it as, if the weather really goes south, is it okay if I take off a little bit early? But that is less of a problem here in Florida.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point. Being reliable and being there every time when you're supposed to be is important because it costs the organizer money to reprint their flyers with your picture and with your name on and things like that. So if you just don't show up for a while, they got to get rid of you. Now they've wasted a lot of money in printing.
Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, arrive early, get your table set up, ask if you can help, say hello to people, help other people with their tables. I always stick around to the end. I always ask if I can help clean up. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I was just, maybe it's just part of my childhood indoctrination. But, but I'm always trying to make myself helpful, and I always, organizers have come to know me as a workhorse and somebody who is reliable, and so if I'm looking for a new event and I'm using an organizer as a reference, that's the thing that gets shared, and that's what I want.
Yep. And time of the year is big too, because some of these fairs are like on the third Sunday, third Saturday, whatever. and many times that's right next to Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving,
That's right.
etc. How have you found holidays affect attendance?
Yeah, holiday. I mean, so when I was really high on fairs, like really doing a lot of them,
Mhm.
like as soon as the second week of November comes, that's when to stop. You're gonna work your heart out from September to the first week of, if you can, that's the season. And so kind of middle of September to the first week, maybe the second week of November if the creek don't rise. But after that, you're really getting into the holiday shopping time, and that's a time that, as much as you may need the money for your own business and your own holidays, I've not had good events at craft fairs, and I think organizers have high hopes, but I've not, even if it was a successful craft fair, I've not had any success giving a reading because it's transactional in a time where they're looking for something for somebody else. As I always make sure people know I have gift certificates available, but yeah, holidays are a tough time. You got to look at where does it fall on most people's paychecks.
Yeah, with the finances and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so holidays and stuff. Usually, if I have a regular that attends every fair, and I've had a couple that just attend like every single fair that I'm at, they're going to
that's
be
awesome.
there. I'll end up giving them just like you're talking about, a coupon
Yep,
or something for a free reading over the holiday, so they don't have to drive out. Because I'm be
that's
like,
right.
I'm not going to be here because it's right next to basically all the major holidays are right
That's right.
here.
That's right.
But if you want to call me, I will give you a free 30-minute reading, and because you're here every time, I really
Yeah,
appreciate you here. Just come on by, or call me, and so you don't have to drive out. The
that's
fair
right.
is not going to be there anyway, and I'm not going to be there. So here's a sort of a coupon type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Letting people know. I mean, honest, and I don't know, To. I mean, how your live show works, but I mean, as I even my live show, which doesn't cost anything to be on, the holidays have an impact on that as well. And so that's. I mean, people are get busy. The time, things are busy, 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 busy. And people sometimes can't take the time to attend, and that's fine. Like that's just, I'm usually tired by the second week of November anyway.
Hmm.
So because it's been 6 weeks of fair work.
Yep, and attendance also depends a lot on location, how much the organizer has advertised, and et cetera. So there's a lot of different factors that sort of culminate into who's going to be there, how many people are going to walk into the front door type thing.
That's right. Yeah, and location. So when I was up in New York State doing readings, this was something I talked with organizers a lot about. Is that location is really critical. Like if it's in a it's got to be, if it's like in the back a church basement and it's not established, that's probably not going to have a great deal of success. But fortunately, in Western New York State, there's a tremendous amount of paranormal hotspots and cool old buildings and stuff like that. And a lot of people will come just to see the building. Like there's one that was in an armory that was super great, and the like a big giant like very old hotel called the Statler City Hotel. Like
Mhm.
those are cool buildings to be in, and that's part of it. So location, but I've also worked events that were way out in wine country, and guess what we had? Wine without customers. So, you know,
Yep. Okay. Well, let's sort of skip to the general tips. Like we're
yeah,
talking about before, bringing food and water. If you're at a hotel or something, the food and water there is going to be outrageously expensive.
that's right.
And if you're not at a hotel, let's say you're at a metaphysical shop or something like that, then you're going to
They won't have
basically
any.
hope they have fast food somewhere, because otherwise
Right.
you're going to be starving for the entire time.
That's right. And if you're going to bring food if you're at a hotel or a facility that sells food or the event is selling food, make sure you ask the organizer if you can bring your own food. If you've got dietary restrictions, self-imposed or otherwise, make sure that I have been asked to not have my food. My response to that is that's crazy. But I've had the venue complain that I was eating like a sandwich, and I was like, no, this is no, thank you, but no. Um, uh, but but just let them. Most organizers are pretty cool about it. They're just like, yeah, that's totally great. Just kind of keep it. keep it behind the table. But let them know you don't want to blindside an organizer. They got enough
Yeah,
going on.
yeah. And speaking of food, like you're talking about, like that's why I sort of bring just finger food. So I can
Yep.
pop a grape in my mouth. I can eat
Right.
a banana in 30 seconds, a minute or
That's right.
whatever.
Yep.
So I mean, I don't like, just lay out like a four-course meal
Yeah,
with
you're
mashed
not. It's
potatoes
not
and
like
steak.
unwrap everything and lay it out. Right, 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 right. Yeah, yeah, little things. I bring little cheese and some and fruit, and I'll bring a sandwich and cut it up because you are working and you are working hard, so you may only have just a few minutes to grab a quick snack. Um, what other good things? Yeah, plan your breaks. I think the one of the general tips in here is plan your breaks.
Hmm.
If you, when you get there, let the organizer know I'm not going to be reading from 11:45 to 12:15. If you have to go to it sounds stupid, but if you have to go to the bathroom, you should probably let somebody know.
Yeah, that's why I have a
So,
sign that actually says on break back in 5 minutes. So if I'm
right,
going to the
right,
restroom or something, the back of my sign, I just flip it around and
yep,
it says be back in 5 minutes, on
that's right,
break. So people can see that from across the room. So if they
that's right,
they
that's right,
enter, they know that I'm going to be right back, that I'm not
that's
just
right.
absent or didn't show up or something like
That's
that.
right. And I'm working so hard sometimes organizers have to remind me to take a break. They're like, you got to take a break.
That's true. Some of those fairs, if they
They're
get
they're
busy,
busy.
you're sitting there the whole time and you're just like, oh my God, I'm burning out.
Yeah, yeah, right. They come out, they're like, dude, you gotta go to the bathroom and get a sandwich or quick.
Exactly. Yeah, and like we're talking about, arriving early is key, especially if you need to have power, or
Yep.
if you need to get set up, because a lot of times you get to these venues, they don't have wireless, or the wireless is
Yeah.
down, and you relied on that, and
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ask for sure if there's like a Wi-Fi password. If it looks, yeah, that's one of the first things I check actually is how much signal do I have and where do I have it. If they don't have wireless, and I've been in some places that don't have wireless, if they don't have a good cell phone signal, I'm not able to take payments. So, or I mean, you can do it offline, but it's a little bit more tedious.
right, right.
And I have to let people know, like you're not gonna get charged right now, but when I connect to the internet, all of these things are gonna go through.
Yep. And
So
yeah, a lot of times the wireless password, they don't know it, and it's run
yep,
by the business office of the hotel who's closed on Sunday, so
that's
nobody
right.
knows it, and the front office, they have no clue.
You're right. Nobody knows. It's just
Yeah, and
it's a weird thing.
the other thing is a lot of people think a psychic fair is just going to be a couple of hours, but most of the ones I go to, you're there for a solid eight
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, yeah. The last one that I worked, I was there. It was a 12-hour show,
Hmm.
which it used to be 2 days. They condensed it down to one day. It's a great fair, one of the best I've ever been to. When they told me it was going to be a 12-hour work day, I was like, that's a lot, but I'm down. Like I trust the organizer. My costs have always been covered. The event's energy is amazing.
Hmm.
It's hands down one of the best places I've ever worked, ever, ever, ever. And it's one of the reasons I still go up north just to work it is because of how good it is. Yeah, if she says this is going to be a 12-hour day, I'm like, I'm in. If she said it was going to be a 46-hour day, I'd have been in. But yeah, expect to work. It's work. It's
Oh
work.
yeah, it is.
Hopefully, if it's a new event, you never know, but expect to be there the whole day. Don't plan anything else.
Yep. And networking and meeting the other people in the room, that's got to be the biggest key to your
Yeah,
success, because not only will they give you hints I mean, it's not just networking to get to know the person. It's not just, networking to make a new friend or whatever, but they'll actually, when somebody's working the room, you have a new person, sorry, if you have a customer that's working the room, that's literally going
yeah,
from table to table, a lot of these people will look over to you and give you that look like,
yeah.
God,
Don't-
and they'll sort of warn you. They'll be like, oh,
yeah, yeah.
or
Tug their
they'll
ear. Yeah.
tug their ear.
Or they'll be like, hey, like, I have been bailed out by readers, like, and like, hey, come, doc, come on over,
Mhm.
you know, can I see you for a quick minute? And I've also bailed out people, like, hey, look, I just read that was, um, give them a minute.
When the 30-minute reading becomes a 45-minute reading, you know, like signal somebody,
Yeah.
please come.
Yeah, that's a really great point too for new readers is that when you're on a 15-minute schedule, man, you got to stick to that schedule. Nothing will make organizers more angry than if you're over schedule and you're consistently over schedule,
By
because
far.
they're getting complaints from people, they're getting complaints from other readers, they're getting complaints from clients, they're refunding money and that they don't like. Keep a timer, have your phone or a kitchen timer, and be hard about that deadline. This is something I consistently have to work real great on. But I work with a guy, and man, his bell goes off. He could be in the middle of a word. He'd be like, "Congratulations," and that's the end of the reading.
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
it.
Sometimes you have to do that. Like we talked about, there are some fairs to where it's a free for all. In other words, the people come, they'll sit down at your table, you take their money, and it's basically once they're in, they're in. The organizer couldn't care less about what you do. And like
Yeah.
we're talking about the other fairs, the organizer actually says you have a 115,
Right.
and
Yep.
it's 115 to 130, and
Yep.
then you have a 130, and they'll tell you that you need to be done by 130 because the 130 person is going to be standing there behind the
Yes.
person you're reading. So yeah.
That's right. And they're willing to. Most clients are willing to wait a couple of minutes, and they're willing to give you a minute to go to the bathroom if you need to.
Mhm.
But if you're two or three, or I've seen readers get. I've worked with somebody that like was 6 or 7 people behind. That's unacceptable. Like
Yeah, you're not going to be around for
that's
long
not
if you
you're not
end
you're
up.
not working that event again. That's for sure.
Yeah, and pay special attention to the greeters. They're the people that take the money. They're the people that sometimes recommend where people go.
Yep.
So they're very good people to have as friends and have on your side.
That's right. Offer a reading up for them. Hey, they're working hard. They're dealing with a lot of people, and they're working hard. Offer them up a reading. Hey, look, if you want to, at the end of all this, if you want to come by and get a reading, you're welcome to.
Yeah, just get to
You're
know them,
working
and
hard.
they'll say, yeah, what style do you have? And I'm this style, and come by type thing.
Random and scary. That's what I tell them.
Have the devil horn,
That's right.
the Friday the 13th hockey mask.
That's right. I don't know. I scream at everybody. Do you get anybody who asks for that at a fair?
Exactly. I'll show them magic tricks, but I mean that's just my thing, though. I'll end up showing magic tricks when it first starts and when it ends and stuff like that. So just have
That's
some
right.
fun with them. So trading readings with other readers is an excellent way to get to know your sort of
Yeah.
in-house family that you have there as
That's
well.
right. Yep, and you get to know who they are, and that's how I picked up Reiki was through a trade, and it's a good way to kill some time if things are a little bit slow. And yep, absolutely, trading readings is a lot. It's a lot of fun, especially if they got a cool tarot deck or a cool way to go about things, and you're not familiar with it. That's an awesome way to get to know somebody.
Yep.
So,
And what do you think about bringing some cash for shopping
yep.
if you want a chair massage and things like that?
It sounds like, and I don't know, but there's been a pretty consistent theme, T.O., that chair massages are your jam.
Chair massage and the bean
The
bag
bean
that
bags,
you put
yep.
in the microwave and put on your shoulders. Those are so amazing, especially in winter. You're just like, I'm freezing cold. Let me put
That's
this
right.
in the microwave, and it smells like lavender.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, absolutely. I share the love with vendors. I mean, they're for the most part at a psychic fair, the people are there to see the readers. The vendors are an addition to keep people occupied and busy while folks are waiting around. So I make sure that I've gotten to know the vendors over the years. So I know, like, you get to know them, and they may offer, something interesting. I get to know if they have like a cool tarot deck or a piece of art or something, or a gemstone or something like that. Yeah, a little bit of cash in your pocket at the end of the event when you settle up with the organizer. If you don't have cash with you, it's always good if there's something you want, hey, look, I don't have any cash with me right now, and I'm busy, but at the end of the event when I settle up, can I get that piece? Would you set that aside for me? And it's a good way to keep the vendors going, because they're also talking to people all day, and they can be part of your marketing.
yep. And speaking of
We have cool
marketing,
stuff.
good segue for the email list. Talk about the email list.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So this is something that I'm terrible at and am getting better at. But your sign up list, if you have a sign up list, so that's not a sign up list, but if you have a sheet of paper,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just names and times, it's names and emails and times.
Mm-hmm.
Make the only thing you have in this world is that email list. That is it. And that is also, it's good for your marketing. Once a month, send them a note, hey, or send them a note after the event. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the reading. This is a way to follow me, especially because you and I both have YouTube channels, this is a great way for you to follow and keep up with us on YouTube, and let them know what events you're coming up to, or if you're selling an Oracle deck like you are. Email, yes, email. I don't collect phone numbers. I used to try to collect phone numbers, but that's kind of a pain.
Yeah, that's kind of hard. People change their phone numbers, or people don't know who you
I do
are.
all
Yeah,
the
and
time.
so I just do email is safe, and people, wouldn't be mind sharing their email. And then I usually do a birthday when it's their birthday. I usually do a
Oh,
free reading on the
yeah,
birthday, and so I'll
that's super
say,
fun.
well, happy birthday. You get a free reading if you want to come by. You get a
Oh,
free
that's great.
15, 20-minute reading with me or whatever. And then
Oh,
obviously,
that's
like
really
you're
great.
talking about, let's advertise the YouTube.
Yep.
If you're having a special, maybe give them a coupon. The
Yep,
usual
little things,
sales.
little marketing things. I mean, you're running a business. I mean, you got to think about this as you are running a business. So, what are the things that you would want to? What are the things you think your clients would want in return for you being there, right? What's the way to kind of keep them engaged and keep them talking about you and wanting to come back? And the email list becomes part of the community extension. Letting them know what you're up to, where you're going, what's up, coupons, things like that.
Yep, standard business things. All right, so let's just do a quick wrap up here. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining me, and
No,
let's do just a quick, a final thoughts here. Well, mine would be, if you're new to this, just try it out. Go to a
yeah,
fair, try it out. Tell the organizer, hey, let me do the interview, get it out of the way, and then say, I want to come and do one fair and see if I like it, and just enjoy yourself. You're going to be the new person there, so you're going to be sort of at the exciting point.
yep,
You get to network. If you never come back, now you have a list of names of other people that you know
that's right.
and things like that. And
Yep,
the big thing is be there early, be there prepared. Make sure that you have food, water, and bring your favorite decks. Bring some type of a cloth because you're going to have a pretty nasty
yeah,
one at the hotel.
that's right.
But just main thing is have fun and see
That's
if you
right.
like it or not. But
That's right.
face-to-face tarot, I think, really thrusts your skill forward a lot more than
Yeah,
any other style because
yep,
of that interaction.
yeah.
And it's
Even
such a
yeah,
varied thing to do that it'll enhance your phone readings, it'll enhance your live streams, it'll enhance your YouTube and everything
that's
else.
right. Yeah, I think so too. I think even if you're not a tarot reader, if you're some sort of other divination reader or you're a medium, there is nothing will challenge you and help you grow faster than being in front of a person and seeing their responses and having that discussion and getting to know them and working through their blocks if they're blocking you. Absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely, fairs are a lot of fun. They can be stressful. Don't feel like you need to start small. Like don't feel like you need to go to like the kind of the startup event unless you know the organizer well and you want to be part of it. Go for an event that's pretty popular and try to work your way in and see what that does. And I see modern metaphysics man makes a comment. He says fairs tend to be so expensive and he hasn't really covered his costs, so he's moved away from it.
Mhm.
And I think that that's absolutely, I mean, part of this is, fairs are a lot of fun, and if you work them if they're fun, and they can very well be a season in your business, and where you do the fairs for a while, and you build your client list, and you build your community, and then, you can be a little bit more selective about what you go to. I don't do nearly as many events as I used to,
Mhm.
because I have an event every Tuesday. So I don't. But be there, be professional, be a helper. Let the go out and have fun. They're a lot of fun, and you're going to get to know a lot of great people really quickly. You're going to have a blast doing it. You're gonna smell more incense than you've ever smelled ever in your life. And that's exciting sometimes. But you get to see, you get to meet so many interesting people. I met people who talked about the alien relationship with the Iroquois nation. Like I've talked to people on both sides of the spiritual coin. I've gotten to know Bigfoot hunters and UFO people. I've got to know artists who have inspired my own art. It's just a great community to be in, provided you find yourself a good event. And just jump in. Also, I don't think you need to feel free. I don't think you need to feel obligated to attend the event before you go to it and work it. Just work it. Just
Yeah,
skip
there you
in and
go.
work it. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And everybody has loved this session. I mean, this is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think a lot of mediums who don't do this work, or tarot card readers who don't do this work often, are looking at these things, wondering how to do it, and there is a business behind all this fun stuff.
Yeah, that's a definite thing. Even if you're good at reading tarot, learning the business side is a whole
Is a
nother
huge part
aspect.
of it. And I think for people who attend psychic fairs who don't read tarot and medium, to understand that there's a business behind it, and that, we're showing up, we're investing our time, we're investing in our own materials, we're investing in our own advertisement for the most part, and that we are there to work and share a message from spirit, but we're there to work too. And so I think it helps to understand. There's a little bit of understanding and a kind of empathy that gets built back and forth between both sides of the table.
Yep. And thank you for joining me. And if you're not a subscriber of Dr. Mystical, you
Oh,
must go to the description down there and click that link and hit that sub button.
well, thank you so much for that. And I just love being on your show, T.O., and I love watching your readings, and it's a lot of fun. So I really do appreciate being part of it. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching.